Nose. The air enters your respiratory system through your nostrils. The air goes through your nose's nasal passages. The nasal passages are equipped with hair, mucus, cilia, and blood capillaries that moisten, filter, and warm the air before it enters your lungs. Pharynx and larynx. Air travels from nasal passages to the larynx, or more commonly known as the throat. When the air leaves the pharynx, it passes into the larynx, or the voice box. The voice box is constructed mainly for cartilage, which is a flexible connective tissues. The vocal cords are two pairs of membranes that are stretched across the inside of the larynx. As the air is expired, the vocal cords vibrates. Humans can control the vibration of the vocal cords, which enables us to make sound. Trachea. The larynx goes directly into the trachea or windpipe. The trachea is a tube approximately 12 centimeters in length and 2.5 centimeters wide. The trachea is kept open by rings of cartilage within its walls. Similar to the nasal passages, the trachea is covered with cilia. Usually, the cilia move mucus and trapped foreign matters to the pharynx. Bronchi. Around the center of the chest, the trachea divides into two cartilage-ringed tubes called bronchi. Also, this section of the respiratory system is lined with ciliated cells, bronchioles. The bronchial tube divided and then subdivided. By doing this, their walls became thinner and have less and less cartilage. Eventually, they became a tiny group of tubes called bronchioles. Alveoli. Each bronchiole ends in a tiny air chamber, looks like a bunch of grapes. Each chamber contains many cup-shaped cavities called as alveoli. The walls that alveoli, which are only about 1 cell thick, are the respiratory surface. They are thin, moist, and are surrounded by several numbers of capillaries. The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood and air occurs through these walls.
Gas transport in the blood. Oxygen transport. The ability of hemoglobin to bind to oxygen depends on the partial pressure oxygen. At high partial pressure oxygen, hemoglobin binds to oxygen, while at low, hemoglobin releases oxygen. In the lungs, partial pressure oxygen normally is sufficiently high so that hemoglobin holds so much oxygen as it can. In the tissues, partial pressure oxygen is lower because the tissues are using consequently. Hemoglobin releases oxygen in the tissues. Oxygen then diffuses into the cells, which use it as aerobic respiration. The amount of oxygen released from oxyhemoglobin, which is hemoglobin with oxygen bound to its hem group, is influenced by 4 factors. First, the partial pressure oxygen is low. The second is the carbon dioxide partial pressure is high. Third, the pH is low. And the fourth, the temperature is high. Increased muscular activity results in a decreased partial pressure oxygen, an increased carbon dioxide partial pressure, and a reduced pH and an increased temperature. Carbon dioxide transport and blood pH. After carbon dioxide enters the blood, it is transported in 3 ways. 7% transported as carbon dioxide dissolved in plasma, 23% transported in combination with blood proteins, primarily hemoglobin, and 7% and 70% is transported in the form of bicarbonate ions. Carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonic acid, which then dissociates to form hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ion. An enzyme called carbonic anhydrase is located inside red blood cells and on the surface of capillary epithelial cells. Carbonic anhydrase increases the rate at which carbon dioxide reacts with water to form hydrogen ion and bicarbonate ion in the tissue's capillaries. Thus, it promotes the uptake of carbon dioxide by red blood cells. Carbon dioxide has an important effect on the pH of blood. As carbon dioxide levels increase, the blood pH decreases because carbon dioxide reacts with water to form carbonic acid. The hydrogen ion that results from the dissociation of carbonic acid is responsible for the decrease in pH. Breathing. The normal rate of breathing in adults is between 12 to 20 breaths per minute. In children, the rates are higher and may vary from 20 to 40 per minute. Neurons involved with respiration are located in the brain stem. The medullary respiratory center consists of two dorsal respiratory groups. The dorsal respiratory groups are primarily responsible for stimulating contraction of the diaphragm. The ventral respiratory groups are primarily responsible for stimulating the external intercostal, internal intercostal, and abdominal muscles. Preposterior complex is believed to establish the basic rhythm of breathing. Pontine respiratory group is a collection of neurons in the pons. It has connections with the medullary respiratory center and appears to play a role in switching between inspiration and expiration. Generation of rhythmic breathing. First, starting inspiration. The neurons in the medullary respiratory center that promote inspiration are continuously active. Medullary respiratory center constantly receives stimulation from many sources, such as receptors that monitor blood gas levels and the movements of muscles and joints. Its stimulation can come from parts of the brain concerned with voluntary respiratory movements and emotions. When all these inputs reach the threshold level, the neurons that stimulate respiratory muscles produce action potentials and inspiration starts. Second, increasing inspiration. Once inspiration begins, more and more neurons are activated. Third, stopping inspiration. The neurons responsible for stopping inspiration also receive input from the pontine respiratory neurons. When inputs exceed the threshold level, they cause neurons stimulating respiratory muscles to be inhibited. Nervous control of breathing. Higher brain centers can modify the activity of respiratory center. It allows voluntary control of breathing. The hearing Brewer reflex inhibits the respiratory center when the lungs are stretched during inspiration. The touch, thermal, and pain receptors can also stimulate breathing. Chemical control of breathing. In the blood, the major driving force regulating breathing is carbon dioxide. Hypercapnia, small increase in carbon dioxide level, results in a powerful urge to breathe. Receptors in medulla oblongata, called chemoreceptors, are sensitive to small changes in hydrogen ions concentration. When blood oxygen levels decline to a low level, hypoxia. Ventilation and respiratory volumes.
Ventilation, also known as breathing, is the process of moving air into and out of the lungs. There are two phases of ventilation. They are inspiration or inhalation. It is where the air goes inside the lungs, and expiration or exhalation. That is where the air goes out from the lungs. Changing thoracic volume. The muscles associated with the ribs are responsible for ventilation. Muscles of inspiration are diaphragm and external intercostal, while muscles of expiration are internal intercostal. Pressure changes and airflow. There are two principles that govern the in and out of the air in the lungs. They are changes in volume result in changes in pressure, and air flows from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. Lung recoil. During quiet expiration, thoracic volume and lung volume decrease in size because of lung recoil. The lung recoil is a tendency for an expanded lung to decrease in size. There are two factors that keep the lungs from collapsing. Surfactant, or surface acting agent, a mixture of lipoprotein molecules produced by secretory cells of the alveolar epithelium. The second one is pleural pressure. When pleural pressure, the pressure in the pleural cavity is less than alveolar pressure, the alveoli tend to expand. Normally, the alveoli are in the expanded state because of a suction effect caused by fluid removal by the lymphatic system and by lung recoil. Changing alveolar volume. Changes in alveolar volume cause the changes in alveolar pressure that are responsible for moving air into and out of the lungs. Alveolar volume changes in pleural pressure. The events of inspiration and expiration can be summarized as follows. Number 1. During inspiration, pleural pressure decreases because of increased thoracic volume and increased lung recoil. As pleural pressure decreases, alveolar volume increases, alveolar pressure decreases, and air flows into the lungs. Number 2. During expiration, pleural pressure increases because of decreased thoracic volume and decreased lung recoil. As pleural pressure increases, alveolar volume decreases, alveolar pressure increases, and air flows out of the lungs. Respiratory volumes and capacities. Spirometry is the process of measuring volumes of air that move into and out of the respiratory system, and the spirometer is a device that measures these respiratory volumes. Measurements of the respiratory volumes can provide information about the health of the lungs. Respiratory volumes are measures of the amount of air movement during different portions of ventilation, whereas respiratory capacities are sums of two or more respiratory volumes. The four respiratory volumes and their normal values for a young adult male are shown.
Respiratory adaptation to exercise. In response to training, athletic performance increases because the cardiovascular and respiratory becomes more efficient at delivering oxygen and picking up carbon dioxide. After training, vital capacity increases slightly and residual volume decreases slightly. Tidal volume at rest and during standardized submaximal exercise encountered does not change at maximal exercises. However, the tidal volume increases. Effects of aging on the respiratory system. Aging affects most aspects of the respiratory system, but even though vital capacity maximum, ventilation rates, and gas exchange decreases with age. The elderly can engage in light to moderate exercise because the respiratory system has large reserve capacity. With age, mucus accumulates within the respiratory passageways. The mucus cilia escalator is less efficient because the mucus becomes more viscous and the number of cilia and their rate of movement decreases. The elderly are more susceptible to respiratory infections and bronchitis vital capacity decreases with age because of reduced ability to fill the lungs and to empty the lungs. As a result, maximum minute ventilation rates decrease, which in turn decrease the ability to perform intense exercises. These changes are related to the weakening of respiratory muscles and the stiffening of cartilage and ribs, which decreases the surface area available for gas exchange, and the remaining walls thicken, which decreases the diffusion of gases. A gradual increase in resting tidal volume with age compensates of these changes.